Welcome to your astrological forecast for the week of Monday, March 7th through Sunday, March 13th, 2022. Now, this week we continue to venture into the fog. So we still have all planets direct. We will continue to have all planets direct for a while here. So we're venturing into uncharted territory, new things happening. I think we can all kind of experience that. There's a lot of activity, a lot of new things happening, new developments. However, there's a huge Pisces influence. So the sun continues to be wedged between Jupiter and Neptune, these sort of co-rulers of Pisces. They each have their own connection to Pisces. So we're very much in the fog. Now this fog will thicken largely because Mercury will enter Pisces this week. Mercury is the only planet that is both in detriment and in fall in the same sign. So Mercury being both in detriment and in fall in Pisces means I think that it's more challenged in Pisces than any other planetary position. So once Mercury enters Pisces and it joins Neptune, Neptune, Sun, and Jupiter, it will thicken the fog that much more. Especially not only because we already have three planets there, but also because Mercury is so informational, technological. It has to do with our thoughts and communications, and because it is so in detriment and in fall in Pisces, it will really add to the mystery, the illusion, the deception that's going on. We're really asleep right now. We're in a sort of dream state. We don't know what's happening. We can't really plan things right now. I think I've been experiencing that myself, and others have noticed that as well and brought that to my attention, that it's so tangible how you can't even really see into the future. It's like there's a literal fog. I'm really telling you here. So this fog will only thicken as Mercury enters Pisces, and it brings that. On the one hand, it brings deception and dysfunction. It brings that lack of clarity, that lack of ability to plan and coordinate and measure. On the other hand, though, the silver lining is that it allows us to see from a different perspective, one that we might not usually look from. So we may be able to access unconventional information we may not normally be open to at this time. That's one benefit of, detriment planets, but especially Mercury and Pisces. This week we also have Venus and Mars are continuing to be basically conjunct within a degree from one another. They've entered Aquarius, now they're beginning these first few degrees of Aquarius. So they're really bringing the attraction and the desire for all of us as a collective to more kind of abstract and collective or societal ideals, I guess, or endeavors. So we're all kind of desiring things on a communal level, which is really abstract. Even trying to define it, I feel like is difficult because by its definition or by its very nature, it's kind of holistic in perspective, or it's having to do with the society of the globe. So right now I think this is showing we're wanting to be part of something bigger. We're wanting more than ever an auspicious future, one where we can all kind of fit into a society. And I think this is I almost want to say it's dangerous. It's really great to want these kind of collective things and to be inspired for a better future and a better society. But at the same time, Aquarius can be very radical and experimental. Some of these utopian ideals and these attempts to create a utopia have actually done quite the opposite. So I think there's something, I don't know, almost intimidating or ominous about these Aquarian energies with Venus and Mars there. On the one hand, it is very inspiring. There could be some kind of breakthrough, liberation, freedom brought on by these energies. But at the same time, it's scary. It's uncharted terrain, and it can sometimes lead to maybe not what we intend. So there's that going on as well. Otherwise, there's not really a lot of aspects this week. I'll just be honest. There is a lot going on, as I've been talking about here, but there's not a lot of planetary aspects. The moon will be waxing, or, that means it's gaining light. It's gaining light each day, gearing up to a full moon that we'll have next week. But moon will be waxing this week from Taurus to Leo. Now this is actually a really beautiful place throughout the week that we'll have the moon, because the moon will go through Taurus, Gemini, and Cancer, and these three signs I think are kind of the most ideal for the moon. Moon is exalted in Taurus, it's in domicile in Cancer, and it's in joy in the third house, which corresponds to Gemini. So really Taurus, Gemini, and Cancer are kind of the easiest areas for the moon to be in. This whole kind of sector of the chart is indicative of a kind of stable and peaceful emotional status, I think, generally speaking, for everyone. So as for the moon, that is something kind of positive to look forward to, I think, here. We start out on Monday, March 7th. So the moon has just conjoined Uranus overnight, right around midnight. So depending on where you are, the moon may conjoin Uranus either very late Sunday or very early Monday. So we may have kind of an unusual night, maybe kind of waking up or having very strange dreams, or maybe waking up with new realizations or new consciousness, new perspective on things. So I think that's really interesting having that conjunction overnight. This could also have financial implications since the moon conjoins Uranus in the sign of Taurus, which does have a lot of financial connections, economic connections. So there could be some kind of maybe um, unpredictable developments or maybe volatile swings in what is value in commodities, etc. Overnight there could be kind of some very unpredictable developments there. Otherwise, the moon in Taurus, like I said, is exalted, so this shows, moon shows our emotional core, so where we're kind of at on an emotional level. And especially because the moon is so fast, it goes through a sign every about 2.5 days. So it kind of shows where we're at on a day by day basis, day by day level, if that makes sense. And the moon is making a waxing sextile to the sun, so it's kind of a crescent, a waxing crescent moon. And this is a really positive, harmonious aspect I talked about in the last weekly forecast, that um, this would just show a generally positive vibe to the day. So Monday looks really nice, especially for kind of starting the week. With that waxing moon, it means that the moon is gaining light, so we're kind of building an intensity or building an energy. So I think that's actually really nice for the beginning of the week. You're kind of gaining energy, gaining light throughout the week. But also, again, the moon is so grounded and earthy in Taurus. It means that we're feeling relatively balanced and grounded on an emotional level, especially with that sextile to the sun. So this looks like a really beautiful start to the week. Maybe something kind of strange or unconventional overnight, and into the morning. Maybe profound realizations. But it will lead to a really stable day for Monday. So that looks really positive and nice, really harmonious, generally speaking. Going forward to Tuesday, March 8th, the moon enters Gemini about midday Eastern Standard Time here. So this is really nice as well. Like I said, moon is exalted in Taurus, but it does pretty well in Gemini too. Gemini is kind of light and carefree. It's very scattered, sociable, curious. So as the moon enters Gemini, we might kind of lighten up a little bit. Taurus is, not that Taurus is a super heavy or serious sign, especially with that positive aspect with the sun. But things do kind of lighten up, so there's more room to kind of breathe and be spontaneous with the moon in Gemini. So we may be more scattered, more curious, talkative, sociable. It's an intellectual energy. And we're gearing up for a first quarter moon that will square the sun a little bit later into the week. So as the moon enters Gemini, we're already kind of gearing up for that. So there can already be well, let me start by saying Gemini is already a pretty scattered and impulsive, spontaneous sign. And with first quarter moon aspects, which I'll get more into once we have the actual aspect later in the week, but those already kind of direct us or guide us to be spontaneous, to be active, to take action, and to initiate. And so, especially, with this taking place in Gemini later this week, it's kind of just more of the same themes strengthening each other, if that makes sense. It's more of the same. So we'll already feel this kind of grittiness and energy. I don't think it'll be super overbearing or negative or challenging. Like I said, the moon does pretty well in Gemini, and there aren't a lot of heavy aspects going on this week. So nothing to worry about at all. I don't think it's really anything challenging. But there may be some kind of it can be, there's like this feeling that's just pushing you to be more active, which I always say for first quarter moon, it can be kind of stressful or anxious. But this one looks pretty light, relatively speaking. This looks like It looks like we'll just be kind of more energetic, more curious, more active in general. We'll be, the moon in Gemini is so light, so it's almost like you kind of have more room to breathe or to do whatever you want. You can just kind of get out there and play or experiment. So yeah, this looks like a generally positive energy. It's just really great for starting new projects, especially ones that are intellectual in nature. So learning about something new, reading about something, teaching something as well, that would work really well. Yeah, and really there's a lot of air energy, and then we have all these four planets in Aquarius, and then the moon is now in Gemini. There's a lot of air, so a lot of light energy that kind of allows you to do whatever you want. It's almost like there's less rules when there's planets in air signs. You can be more free to express yourself, or free to think outside of the box, or to be different. And especially with all these air planets connecting or combining with the heavy Pisces influence, it really allows us a lot of room to be creative or be different, to maybe examine things differently. I think this is kind of a philosophical energy. We can really step back and observe and imagine things. So this could be great for not only learning abstract concepts, but also being creative or artistic as well. Going to Wednesday, March 9th. Moon continues through Gemini, so it's still not squaring the sun yet, but it's getting closer, so there could be that buildup of, like I always say, it's a first quarter aspect. It's a square aspect. So negative side, it could be stressful, anxious, but it's anxious because there needs to be a change. There's always needs to be a change with these types of aspects. So there's no need for anxiety or stress as long as you're kind of getting out and making changes to things, especially with the moon in Gemini. It really wants us to tweak things, to edit, to improve on things, to change things in general, and especially because it's a mutable square, sun in Pisces, which is mutable, moon in Gemini, which is mutable. Mutable signs embrace change, and especially with this first quarter aspect building up, this is an excellent time for making changes or adjustments. And just in general, this could be to whatever, to your life, to yourself, to anything really. This doesn't look like it's indicating massive changes, like a lot of people moving or starting a new job, starting a new relationship. It's not that type of massive changes. It's more just changing and tweaking, editing what's already going on, if that makes sense. So great energy for that. Also on Wednesday, we have Mercury entering Pisces later in the day. So I already talked about this a little bit here, but yeah, Mercury is both in detriment and in fall in Pisces. So on the one hand, yes, it's very challenging, but it's not all bad. There are actually strengths and benefits to having planets in detriment or having planets in fall. With Mercury in Pisces in particular, I think this is comparable to a Mercury retrograde. There are some differences though. Mercury is still direct, so there's still a lot of new things happening. We're not mulling over the past. We're not, calling our exes or what have you necessarily. We're still venturing forward into uncharted territory. However, things are not as direct or linear or straightforward as they typically are when Mercury is direct. I say it's comparable to a Mercury retrograde because there's a sort of level of dysfunction and miscommunication. There's a lack of ability to plan things. So if you have really strict, complicated plans while Mercury is in Pisces, just like retrograde, your plans probably will not come to fruition, or they won't come into fruition how you thought they would. Because with Mercury in Pisces, Mercury's not operating as it usually does. Usually this is the aspect of ourselves and our lives that we like to have planned, and we like to figure out things. We like to have them be somewhat concrete. We like to learn and figure out and plan and coordinate in a way that's always changing, but it's always changing based on logic. So, there's there's kind of constant change, but it's based on something that we can point to and measure and see. But when Mercury's in Pisces, nothing is physical, nothing is, calculatable or countable. Everything becomes kind of subjective and creative and artistic and, I don't know, spiritual, non-physical. Everything's based on feeling. So the benefit is that this is excellent energy for being creative or intuitive, to kind of go within. So like meditation or art. But I always say even things that are like very physical in nature, so like working out or like, I don't know, boxing or something, or like running, Any type of thing, any types of activities like that are great, where you can kind of, anything where you're not using the conscious mind, like the frontal cortex, you know. So like, for instance, really detailed work would not be what you should do right now. If you do have to do really detailed work, I would say to check what you're doing multiple times, to be extra thorough, because Mercury in Pisces is just not supporting that. So you may have to be extra diligent to make sure there are no errors, no grammatical errors, things of that nature, because Mercury in Pisces is really supporting us in being intuitive, artistic, emotional, you know. I think people would say it's like left brain instead of right brain or what have you. I don't know how accurate that actually is, but yeah, it's the general gist of it. It's more the, you know, feeling artistic side of things. And like I've been saying, we've already been kind of experiencing this really dense fog, this Piscean fog, where we're kind of in a dream state. We're not experiencing things in a very conscious, you know, awake type of way. There's just so much going on that we're not fully aware of, or we don't really know what's happening. So Mercury in Pisces just adds to that, you know, so much so. So it does exacerbate a lot of dysfunction and confusion. I won't lie to you. It is, you know, very challenging and maybe even negative on those aspects. But again, there's always a silver lining. The silver lining is that we can pause and reflect. This would almost be a good time to take a break. You know, again, it's kind of similar to Mercury retrograde, where it's ideally it's a physically less active period, I think, with these planets, and especially Mercury in Pisces. You know, if you can take a break, you know, maybe allow yourself to sleep more. Sometimes we need to do that, and it's, again, it's all about integration. That's what it comes back to with Pisces. It's about integration, so you might have to pause, reflect, to do that if you can. And again, if you have to work, and especially if it's really detail oriented work, check what you're doing. Like, check your emails before you send them, or check your messages, because we may misrepresent ourselves. We may have errors in our calculations. So just check what you're doing. Maybe be extra thorough once Mercury enters Pisces. Okay, let's go to Thursday, March 10th. Here we finally have that exact first quarter moon, that square aspect to the sun, 90 degrees. And technically it will actually be at 19 degrees Gemini, so a little bit earlier here. Okay, and I've already talked about that quite a bit since it has built up. The moon's already been in Gemini for, you know, a couple of days here, basically. But yeah, okay. So first quarter moons, they always represent change and growth, editing things and initiating things. Of course, the original initiation always comes from the new moon, which is 1 week before the first quarter moon. But that type of initiation, that type of, you know, newness that we experience with the new moon is very quiet. It's very subtle. It's where you plant the seed. The seed doesn't burst from the ground and sprout up into existence, where it's very visible and visibly, you know, disrupting the status quo. That occurs on the first quarter moon. So that's what we're experiencing now. So hopefully that makes sense, that, you know, yes, things begin on the new moon, but they really begin in a more physical, sometimes chaotic way on the first quarter moon. So yeah, I always say, yes, it is stressful or anxious, especially if you're trying to rest. Now I'm contradicting myself a little bit, because on the one hand, Pisces, it's hard not to. It's very messy. On the one hand, Mercury and the Sun in Pisces are, I think, more supporting us to be restful, or, you know, integrating. But with the moon squaring the Sun, it doesn't allow us to do this on this day. It wants to be intellectual, and moon in Gemini wants us to be analytical and intellectual, and the moon is ruled by Mercury, which is in Pisces. It's just not supporting that. So it really is dysfunctional. It is a dysfunctional energy. You know, moon is in Gemini, which is not a particularly difficult placement. So there is that. It's kind of a light, playful energy. So that's good. I think that's positive. I think the takeaway from this is that Sun in Pisces and Moon in Gemini, the connection between the two are a lack of structure. I would say these two signs are probably less structured than any other sign, Pisces and Gemini. So And that's a strength as well as a challenge. The strength is that they are extremely adaptable. They're probably the most adaptable sign since they're not so structured. So if you can tap into your, whatever your skills are in terms of your adaptability, how can you adapt to situations? Some of us are better at this than others, and some of us may have different tactics to do so. Um, a lot of it could just have to do with kind of detaching a little bit too. I think that's okay to some extent right now. Pisces and Gemini both have extreme detachment abilities as well. They can just kind of detach emotionally and observe. Pisces is such an emotional, passionate sign, but it's also potentially so detached at times. Um, so yeah, so I think that's the key here: to be adaptable, to be open to change. These are both very open energies, and to kind of just go for the ride. It's not necessarily. Let me put it this way. So I guess the benefit, depending on your personality, this may be a blessing or a curse for you, I guess. But if you can just kind of lay back and just go with the flow and just see everything as theater and just go for the ride, the better you are at taking that approach, the easier this type of energy will be for you on Thursday. If you're the type of person that wants to figure out all the answers and you're very hands-on person, you want to do everything and figure everything out, this will be challenging for you. I'm not gonna lie. You've just got to ride it out. You've just got to let it let the chips fall where they may. This is a lesson or an exercise in patience and adaptability and in openness to I'm struggling to find the words, but it's really about just openness to kind of letting the universe take you right now. Of course, we do our best. We assert our, wisdom and knowledge the best we can. And I'm not saying not to do that, but the power will not necessarily be in our hands right now because we don't really know what's happening and everything's kind of out of control. There's something maybe scary about that if we're used to being in control. But at the same time, there can be something really liberating and really adventurous if we learn to embrace the roller coaster that is life right now. Right now, especially with these energies that are happening with this first quarter moon. Going to Friday, March 11th, moon enters Cancer, where it is in domicile. This energy looks so different to me, honestly. So as soon as the moon enters Cancer, not only is it in domicile there, but it will also begin to trine all four of these planets: Mercury, Jupiter, Sun, Neptune. As pretty much right as soon as the moon enters Cancer, it will trine Mercury. So this is a much more harmonious energy. So we have, right after that dysfunction and chaos brought on by the first quarter moon from Thursday, right after that, even in the early hours of Friday, I think things do kind of become much more stable and harmonious, and this will continue as we approach the weekend as well. Um, and this stability, this harmony, is based in the element of water. So this is based in intuition, creativity, spirituality. This is a very soulful energy, and it's one conducive to emotion, intuition. Um, yeah, so so this does look a lot more harmonious. Again, we're still in the fog though. There's still four planets in Pisces, but then Moon in Cancer is trining with all that. So we're still in the fog, but there's some element of peace or harmony to it. Especially if you have water in your chart. I think the water signs are most open to the unknown, I guess. Fire signs are too in a different way, but yeah, water signs are maybe most at peace with not knowing everything, not figuring everything out. They're at peace. And I think, ironically, in a kind of backwards way, that's why they can actually be so perceptive with the universe, because they understand innately that more is unknown than what is known. The more you know, the more you realize how much you don't know, basically. And I think the water signs know that more than anybody. So Moon in Cancer is just connecting to all these Pisces energies, connecting to the fog. So maybe you can, even though we are in a slumber state, we're in a dream state, we don't know what's going on. Sometimes that's where the best information is. And I know that's so contradictory and maybe it doesn't make any sense, but sometimes the more you just kind of tune out and don't think about anything, that's where you just, everything kind of just clicks and you understand things more. And again, that's what integration is. So that's really the key here. But overall, just in general on Friday, things look really harmonious, more so than the rest of the week here. Starting to get some really easy energies as we approach the weekend. So that's really good. Okay, let's go forward to Saturday, March 12th. Moon is in Cancer all day on Saturday. And again, this is really beautiful. We've got the moon trining Jupiter midday, and late in the day, by evening going to the night, it will be trining the sun and Neptune. So let's see. So a lot of really harmonious energies conducive to imagination and creativity, and just being kind of one with the universe, to being open to new possibilities and inspiration. You know, yep. That combination of being in a sort of confusion or a dream state, but the more accepting you are of that, the more open you are to it, and the more you can actually gain awareness from it. So that's kind of the ironic thing, but that's what these very watery energies are supporting us in doing. And this could be a very emotional time. Moon in Cancer is in domicile, so we're very aware of our emotions at this time. That's probably the most tangible thing. With all these Pisces energies, it's very confusing, but the one thing that we're sure of is just how we feel in the moment on Saturday. So there could be a lot of emotions, a lot of feeling, a lot of sensitivity. So the more water you have in your chart, the more easy this will be to you'll be in your own element. If you lack water, you may be kind of uncomfortable with emotion, uncomfortable with things that are unknown or outside of the box. So this could be very uncomfortable for you. So again, the only advice I can give is to just be open to the world, to be open to the unknown. That's really all you can do, with all these kind of watery energies at this time. Astrological speaking, of course. All right, and then I just want to make sure. Okay, going forward to Sunday, March 13th, Sun conjoins Neptune kind of early in the day. Yeah, right here it's exact at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay, so with the Sun conjoining Neptune, this just adds, there's already so much deception, illusion, confusion, lack of structure, lack of awareness, but also potential for spiritual awareness at the same time. There's all this stuff going on with all these Pisces energies, and with Sun and Pisces, this all just gets multiplied by 10. It gets, squared or multiplied exponentially. It gets increased dramatically as the Sun conjoins Neptune here. Yes. So on the one hand, extra confusion, extra chaos. Nothing is calculated, nothing's known, nothing's linear. We are confused. We don't know what's happening. We're being exposed to different narratives, different propaganda, and kind of just detaching from it all. I think a lot of people are at that point now where we know that there's so many lies coming from almost every direction. Everyone has their own agenda. If anyone who's a truth seeker who tries to tune into the information knows that it can be easy to become overwhelmed. It's easy to just want to tune out because it's just such an overwhelming task trying to discern the information, to discern what is fact or fiction. And that's part of the Neptune opposition that we've been experiencing in America, that there's so much information. There's almost an overabundance of information and different, contradictory information, and I don't know, people lying and then other people saying, no, I'm not lying, they are. It's overwhelming, and it can lead to a total shutdown, mentally speaking. So a lot of us understandably just tune out. But I think we are becoming more aware at the same time. We're becoming aware that, I guess, just of all the corruption and deception and the lies, the illusion, the fantasy of it all. So there's a lot going on, more so than I could possibly sum up in this video here. But in short, Sun conjoining Neptune, passing over that point. I think this is the peak of the fog for this season here, for this episode. Because like I said, by the end of the week, by next week, Sun will be entering Aries already. So this is kind of peak fog. Sun conjunct Neptune in Pisces, Jupiter in Pisces, Mercury in Pisces. We don't know what's going on. Very non-linear. if you have the opportunity to just go on a retreat into nature, or to, I don't know, spend like 24 hours straight painting, that's a kind of crazy amount of time, but you get what I'm saying. To allow yourself to get lost in fantasy in a healthy way, in a way that you can integrate, that is by far the best thing right now. And again, I'll repeat it, a third time. If you have to work, especially with detail oriented information, check what you're doing. Just make sure, because you can get lost, you can get distracted or daydreaming. Um, you can make miscalculations very easily at this time. It's hard to be in the linear, conscious mind right now, I think. Okay, and then last thing here, Sunday, March 13th, Moon does enter Leo. And I think, honestly, my first reaction when I saw this was, I feel like it's a breath of fresh air. This is just the moon, so it's not a big deal. Moon, like I said, goes through a sign every 2.5 days. But we have no fire energy. We're kind of deprived of fire. The only thing close to a planet we can have, in fire is, we've got Chiron and Aries. But again, Chiron is a dwarf planetoid. It's not fully a planet, so I kind of half count that. So other than that, and also Chiron is a very outer planet. It's more applying to the collective, and it's very small. I think size does matter with astrology. So really, there's a pretty much lack of fire. So that lately we have, despite there being so many new things happening and being in an uncharted territory, there's a lack of motivation or ambition, spontaneity, that spark that kind of motivates us to be active or to be adventurous, to be charismatic. There may be that kind of lack of fire, for lack of a better word, lately. So I think Moon and Leo, it really positively adds to the mix here. We've got a pretty good mix of, especially water and air, and then with a little bit of earth. So that fire really adds to things. Um, and let me just kind of clarify that a bit. So we've got all the Pisces stuff, all that fog, the mystery, the illusion, the creativity, the spirituality. We've got some planets in air with Venus and Mars and Aquarius, so that's adding to the kind of more intellectual side of things. We're visualizing in a big way. We're wanting to learn about concepts, wanting to fit in with our communities. So there's a lot of kind of non-physical energies. Now the moon enters Leo, so we want to be more hands-on. We want to be more energetic and, I don't know, more individualistic as well, which also I think is good, because Pisces and Aquarius are such collective energies, and that's where most of the planets are. So we can get lost in fantasy easily. We can get lost in ideas and abstract concepts. The focus is not so much on our personal individuality. So finally, as the moon enters Leo, we can be more individualistic, and that's why we can be more confident with these, more individualistic energies, is because, we know what we personally want more than anything else. That's, if you can be confident about anything, that would be what you'd be confident about. Hopefully I'm making sense. But in short, Moon and Leo adds a lot of warmth and vitality, a lot of self-expression. It allows us to be more spontaneous and to have fun. I think Moon and Leo is a really fun energy. So yeah, overall, the weekend brings in some really harmonious energies, and Sunday may be even better. It's a kind of nice end to the week and a nice end to the weekend, I think. And Moon is gaining light. So as we close out Sunday, Moon is gaining light. It's, about, well, I guess it's, the better part of 2 signs away from the full moon. But yeah, once it gets into Virgo, we'll already be building up for that Virgo full moon next week. So that will be interesting. A lot to unpack there. But yeah, stay tuned. Next week, not only do we have the Virgo full moon, we also have Sun entering Aries. And I think, again, I think these fire energies are a really welcomed transition, coming from all this Piscean fog. This fire will cut through the fog and will allow us to gain some clarity. So that's, I think, something to look forward to. Not that there's anything wrong with these Pisces energies. I think there's a time and a place for everything. There's a reason for all of this that's happening. But what's really exciting is that, the more you integrate during the Pisces season, the more you can allow your mind to wander, or, do the things that allow yourself to integrate. Go for a walk, cook something, etc. The more you can allow yourself to do all these types of activities, the more bang for your buck you'll really experience once you get that fire dominant transit later. In other words, once the sun enters Aries, the more you integrate it during this time, the more confident and active you can be, as, once the beginning of spring happens. The more you can kind of really experience the fruits of your labor, so to speak, that way. So yeah, that's what I have for you this week. I hope you're all well. I know this is a really crazy time for everyone, but yeah, I think we're going on to better things here. I think we're getting through it. So, okay. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.